I wanted to talk a little bit about perennialism today. It's a term that I came across 15, 20 years ago, I guess. And it's one that I am really grateful to have come across because a lot of people really find it difficult if you can't give them a label to classify you by. When people ask me, "Are you a Christian?" I normally answer, well, yes, I certainly consider myself a Christian, but a lot of Christians would not consider me a Christian. When people ask me if I'm Muslim, I say, well, I do consider myself Muslim, and yet most Muslims would probably disagree. If people ask me if I'm Buddhist, I say, yes, I absolutely am Buddhist, and yet nothing that most Buddhists would recognize as Buddhist, and so on and so forth. I recognize myself in Hinduism. I recognize myself in many other traditions, and yet it's very difficult for people to accept this simply because so many religions define themselves by the fact that they are not another religion. Now, I made, in about 2010, I guess, it must have been something along those lines, I gave a talk. I sunk a lot of money that I didn't have. I was a young teacher at the time, and every penny was very hard earned. And I sunk a bit of money into hiring the room of a university to give a talk. And I wanted to advertise my talk. It was free. I wasn't charging for the entry. However, I did want a few people to turn up. And so I created some posters and went around town. This is in Brighton in the south of England, asking various shops if they would be kind enough to put up my posters. There was one shop that I was certain would accept my poster. It was a shop called Bell, Book and Candle. I don't know if they still exist. I haven't been to Brighton for a few years now. Nevertheless, you can tell by the name that they stocked all kinds of esoteric books and artifacts. And I thought, yes, this will be just the place. And I went in and I asked them, would you be okay with me putting this poster up, or would you put this poster up for me? And they said, what is it? And I said, well, I'm going to be talking about religions and the common thread between them and so on. They said, mix and match. I said, I guess something like that. No, we don't do mix and match here. Please leave immediately, was their response. So I left immediately, and that kind of stuck with me. I didn't visit that shop much after that. I say much at all after that. But today I'd like to really address that issue of the resistance towards mixing and matching, and I can also see how mixing and matching can be a very negative thing when it is done for convenience sake. But I also strongly believe that every tradition has got some really good stuff and also some stuff that is tied to tradition, not even tied to tradition, but tied to social circumstances. And to bring that across the ages and to attach an importance to it where it doesn't belong. I think that that's something that should be let go of. And I honestly believe after 20 good years of studying various religions, I honestly believe that every religion has got some common traits. Every religion has got some positive aspects that can be useful to anyone's life. And just because they are a part of one religion and not a part of another religion doesn't make them any less useful. And in the same way, even the most beautiful religion and the closest religion to one's heart can contain some very negative aspects. This is actually a quotation that I first read in Aldous Huxley's The Perennial Philosophy. This is a first edition that I was lucky enough to get my hands onto, and this was the quotation that I read. About 15 years ago, I guess, from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Like the bee gathering honey from different flowers, the wise man accepts the essence of different scriptures and sees only the good in all religions. Well, when I read this, I thought, right, so clearly I'm not alone. This whole book is about bringing together similar aspects from different traditions, from different sources, trying to make find a common thread, right? And I was just trying to find this quotation today, and I just couldn't remember where in the book it was. And so I thought, right, let me look in the back, look through the glossary. Is there anything about bees? No, nothing about bees. I'm going to really have to find the source, right? And so here is the source. But in order to find the source, I Googled, right, wise person, bees, gathering nectar from many flowers, that kind of, those kinds of key words. The first thing that came up was this quotation by Srinath Mishra from 1983. Thus, a wise man should be like a bee. A bee lands on many flowers. He sips their nectar. In this manner, he collects it. Just so, wise men, when they hear good things, should collect and savor them. This is 1983. I thought that is probably not right, because the Perennial Philosophy was written in 40s, if I'm not completely mistaken. Regardless. Okay. Anyway, certainly before 1983. And then, so I continued doing some research, and I found probably what this politician was quoting, the quotation from Mahatma Gandhi. Like the bee gathering honey from the different flowers, the wise person accepts the essence of the different scriptures and sees only the good in all religions. But I thought, do you know what? I'm pretty sure if it had been Gandhi in the Perennial Philosophy, then I would have remembered that. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't. And so I looked further and found the Srimad or Srimad Bhagavatam, which, by the way, scholars, specialists consider was probably written around the 9th to 11th centuries. So like a honeybee gathering trickles of honey from different flowers, the wise man accepts the essence of different scriptures, sees only the good in all religions. With that kind of ideology, a Hindu should be eager to read all religious books in the world. Now, the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, the book, the text, claims itself to have been written around 3,000 years before the Common Era. Nevertheless, that's not the opinion of scholars. But I looked even further and found this, which really made me happy, because it's Isocrates. So he's a rhetorician from Greece. Talking around 4th century before Common Era. Just as we see the bee settling on all the flowers and sipping the best from each, so also those who aspire to culture ought not to leave anything untested, but should gather useful knowledge from every source. And that made me really happy, because it shows me that this Greek philosopher was a source for this Hindu text on the followers of Vishnu, and that's really the essence of this quotation. Anyway, I thought it was quite nice. Just to close the topic, or rather the video at least. I'm sure the conversation will continue down in the comments. Just a reminder that just within the domain of Western magic, the Dancing Sorcerer really addresses that issue of Solomonic versus Faustian magic and the necessary combination of the two, whereas in the magical societies, people either go for one or the other, and usually tend to reject whichever one they haven't gone for. But I really like P.T. Mistleberger's idea of both being necessary within the Western magician. So those are my thoughts, guys. If you have any ideas, any thoughts. One last thing, actually. I've seen a meme going around Facebook, I guess, saying that there's this wonderful ideology where called, what do they call it? Omnist. With an EST at the end. And it's described as one who believes that there is truth in all religions, which of course grammatically makes no sense whatsoever. And of course there is no tradition called omnism. If you look up omnism, yes, you'll find a load of memes and possibly even an entry in Wikipedia, but certainly no source material like you will if you're looking up the word perennialism, which actually is an actual tradition with plenty written on it and plenty of very, very useful, interesting background reading if you're interested in that kind of thing. Okay, so those are my thoughts for tonight. Thanks ever so much for watching. As usual, please remember to leave me a thumbs up. It really helps with the channel. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you very soon. Take care.